Hi, I'm GM Matthew Sadler.
And I'm WIM Natasha Regan. Welcome to this video on TCEC 17 Superfinal, and we're going to be looking at the French defence, the advanced variation of French, and a very rare win for black. So here Leela is playing black and adopts, first of all, quite a slow system against the advanced French with b6. But it does really liven up because in a little while Leela plays f6, breaking up the centre, and Stockfish is expecting, it appears, that Leela will castle kingside. So Stockfish plays its queen to g3, which actually turns out to be quite a slow move when Leela instead castles on the queen side. Leela then plays a very nice pawn sacrifice to keep the lines closed on the queen side so that there's more time for king side counterplay. So we get a game where Leela's pawn down but has all the chances and also all the possibilities for pawn breaks.
Yeah, it's a really, really good game. So, it was kind of a super final killer because at this stage Leela was ahead, but Stockfish was very close behind, and this win with black, followed by a win in the next game on the white side of the French, just completely finished off the season 17 super final. So let's have a look at this game. It's a really, really good one. We'll just go back to the start just so that you can see the opening moves. It's so it was e4, e6, d4, d5, e5, and b6.
So Stockfish is playing white here and Leela black, and these were the moves that were predetermined by TCEC.
That's right. I mean, b6 is a slow French. Black normally plays c5 to attack the pawn on d4, but this has been played by some pretty illustrious people. This type of system, Bronstein, Petrojan, I've been tempted by it as well, but somehow it never quite ends up being good enough, really. But well, in this game you'll see how well it works. So c3, c5, and now Stockfish played knight a3. Which has become one of its mannerisms, I think, in these types of structures. It likes playing the knight to a3. This move has also got a subtle point, actually, because black's next move, and the very typical move in these systems, is to play queen d7.
And the idea of that move is to swap off the bishops. So black wants to swap off the light square bishops on a6. And the knight on a3 supports the bishop coming, white's bishop coming to b5.
Yeah, so it's the bad bishop. That's where you want to exchange off the light squared bishop. So you want to play bishop a6, and then what white does here makes use of this move knight a3 to play bishop b5, and this forces the knight to c6, and then as Natasha said, the light squared bishop can no longer come to a6. It costs black a tempo, so black will get a6 as an extra tempo, but that's a bit of a mixed bag, really, because that also weakens the black queen side. So interesting idea from Stockfish there. Obviously, Leela was already looking at playing h4 and those sort of moves, but Stockfish develops normally, and that's absolutely fine. But here is a crucial moment, and I think Leela takes a real French player's decision, actually, and plays this move f6.
So already breaking up the centre and challenging white in the centre.
Yeah, I mean, it's rather than just develop pieces normally, just try and move them around the pawns and just leave white with a very stable, strong centre. Leela straight away is challenging and trying to create gaps and holes in white's position. I mean, it's risky, of course, because it's creating gaps and holes in black's position as well. But it's not bad at all. I once played a very similar game against a Dutch grandmaster, Erik van den Doel, and I pronounced that wrong. My goodness, Van den Doel. And I got this sort of structure, and again, the counterplay I got was very similar to what Leela gets. It's obviously a structure with a great deal of dynamic potential. So castles, f takes e5, and here white's got to decide a bit of a toss-up really. You can take back with the d pawn and leave black a little more cramped with more pieces in its position, or you can play what Stockfish played, which is the normal way of doing it. You take with the knight on e5, which then gives you the move f4 to defend the e-pawn later if necessary. However, that does exchange off a black piece, and that means that this knight now can come e7 to c6, so that aids black's development a little bit. So queen f3. And this is the start of a series, I think, of somewhat slow moves from Stockfish. I think I think Stockfish's idea was that black was bound to castle kingside, so the queen was already getting itself ready for that. So
that would tie the bishop to f8, like bishop e7 is no longer possible here.
Exactly. I mean, bishop e7 is no longer possible. Queen g7. And if you really do want to carry on castling kingside, you might have to play a move like g6, and that could cause some more weaknesses. And I think that was probably the general reasoning. But Leela's plan actually was not to castle kingside. It was to castle queenside. So bishop b7, knight c2, and queenside castling. And now you sort of feel that the queen on g3 is looking a bit silly. Because, it's defending the pawn on e5, but that's it's a big piece, it's a big piece to use the queen to defend a pawn, really. And, now if black plays bishop e7, white's got to be very careful about taking on g7, because that's just in front of its king. So
you can imagine those rooks coming onto the open file, hitting the queen on the way, so gaining time, and also threatening that white king there.
Yeah, no, I mean it's quite dangerous there. So really, this is kind of crossed the plan that Stockfish was playing, and now Stockfish played another slow move actually. Played this move rook b1. I mean, I played quite a few engine games, and they were playing the move that I thought was the most natural as well, which is b2 to b4. Simply. You're willing to sacrifice a pawn just to open up the queen side. But as you'll see, looking at the plan that Leela ended up playing, having the rook on b1 is not a particularly great thing to have. So and Leela played a beautiful idea here, actually, a very, very clever idea. So played b5, b4, and now just played c4. And after bishop e2, carried on with d4. Stockfish took back, and now Leela didn't take the pawn on d4. That opens up lines and frees a number of white pieces. I mean, the knight on c2 is not fantastic. The bishop on c1 is rather hindered by these pawns on e5, d4, b4. So Leela doesn't want to take on d4 and open up the g1a7 diagonal for a bishop. Played knight e7. So very Petrosyan-like, this one.
You can see now how white is quite blocked, because its pawns can't really advance. So the only place it can really advance pawns is on the king side, and it doesn't want to do that. So Leela's kind of managed to block off white's attack, any attack that white would have against its king.
Yeah, I mean, it's what's black gained with this? First of all, the light squared bishop is extremely active now, and that's always the problem piece in the French for black. The knight's got a great square on d5, also on f5 as well. The d4 pawn, white's always got to worry about that one. You look at the white queen not doing a great deal, and the black king looks pretty safe. I mean, I really think that, at some stage white should be trying to play a4 and a takes b5, but of course when you play a4 you realise that your move rook b1 wasn't that clever. You'd much rather have the rook on a1, so anything that white does is going to be, somewhat slow. So
Leela's evaluation here, it was increasing, wasn't it? But it was coming towards equality, I guess, for black.
Yeah, I mean, Leela still thought that white was better in this position. Something like 0.5, 0.6 for white. and so did Stockfish as well. So their evaluations weren't too different. But over the next few moves, and well, you'll understand why when you see the moves. Leela's evaluation was going down to 0, so to equality, and well, at some stage it just started going the other way as well. So rook d1, just protecting d4, and now this great move g5. Again, it's similar to what we said, that with the queen there on g3, black's happy to give away a g-pawn just to open up the g-file. And a move like, especially that the a8 h1 diagonal has been opened, moves like this with the rook on g8 and bishop b7 converging onto the pawn on g2. I mean, that's extremely dangerous. But if white doesn't take that pawn, then there's a big threat of the pawns just rolling h5, h4, g4, g3, and actually gaining tempi on the white queen as they advance. So a lot for white to think about, and you look at white's counterplay and you don't really see it yet. So knight e3, knight d5, making sure that white that d5 square stays thoroughly blockaded. And now Stockfish played an interesting move, but again one of those slightly slow moves. It played bishop h5. What is that bishop doing? It's getting in the way of the kingside pawn, so h7 to h5 is no longer possible. So from that point of view, it's stopping black's counterplay. On the other hand, though, I mean, if you're thinking in terms of attacking on the queen side, that bishop's on completely the wrong spot, and apart from stopping the advance h5, it's not really doing a great deal, the bishop. So, again,
there's a bit of a danger that bishop's actually going to get stranded there and won't be able to move. Exactly.
It's but I mean, white's position looks fairly safe. You're not quite sure really how black would do anything, but still, there's a queen g3, bishop h5, rook b1. They feel like moves that haven't really grasped the essence of the position. So Leela now plays a number of moves. I mean, this is what the NNs, AlphaZero, Leela 0, Stockfish, what all of them can do so well. They can optimize their position, just find good squares for the pieces and improve how the pieces are looking. And this is what happens. So a rook goes to f5, and you look at what Stockfish is doing, and he's gone a3, rook b2, rook a2, king b7. That's not really gonna make a big difference. Rook f1, getting ready to protect f2. I mean, Stockfish is really just battening down the hatches and just waiting. Rook g8, just hinting at the king side. Rook a8, hinting at the queen side now. And you suddenly realise that black's got this interesting break a5, which would put some nasty pressure on the white queen side. So black played bishop d2 to stop that. Leela went back rook f8. Lovely harmonious position here. And now I think Stockfish played an incautious move, a bad move here. Obviously, there's always some ideas with c3 in the air. For the moment, c3 can just be met by rook c2, but you've always got to be careful about that. So I guess rook c2 was just calculated that in some lines it would be handy to have that. But now Leela played this move a5, and here Leela's evaluation starts to go towards itself, very much so in its favour. This is actually a very difficult decision for white. What is black threatening? Funnily enough, black's next idea is going to be to play a5 to a4.
Completely blocking up the queen side there.
Exactly, and what that means is that white has got no possibility of any play there at all. So the black king's completely safe. And then all that black needs to do is to somehow extract that bishop from h5, and you can move your queen to h6, threaten all sorts of moves like rook f4, extract that bishop from h5, and then the kingside pawns are going to roll, and then, well, you're the only one with any counterplay, really, any hope of winning, and the number of pieces that you can mass against the king is pretty impressive. And in my engine games, this plan worked out very well. Black was scoring very, very well after getting the move a5 to a4 in. So Stockfish here took the decision not to just wait that and played b takes a5. But I mean, yeah, it's got to be careful about criticising moves like that. But I mean, for me, it just looks like a really bad move. Really, after this, I just can't imagine that black isn't just going to be, virtually winning with those two enormous passed pawns. And just somewhere around here, well, Leela was now very, very clear advantage, and somewhere around here, Stockfish's evaluation suddenly dipped hugely, and was at -1, and you know, clearly worse position. So there was something here that that Stockfish missed. You know, you were not quite sure what it would be, but anyway, this was going to be difficult. Queen g3, a good move there, just attacking the bishop on a3. Bishop on e7, rook b2. So it's white trying to make a blockade of those queenside pawns, but with pieces it's not easy. King a6, the king nice and safe there on the behind the white a pawn. Rook b1.
It's funny, isn't it? That's a square that AlphaZero always used to put the king on kind of rook 3 on one side or the other.
Yeah, that's right.
Just tuck it there.
Yeah, that's right. That's a very good point, actually. It's we sort of highlighted that as a theme in Game Changer, that it was often AlphaZero was often finding safety for its king on a6 or h6 or a3 or h3. But yeah, and Leela's done it a number of times as well. Peter Heine Nielsen tweeted once about that. Yeah. The Leela Castle, he called it. You know, so yeah, very, very, very interesting. It's so rook f7, rook b1, or bishop h5. Yeah, Stockfish going for a repetition there. Leela having none of it, avoiding that. Rook b1 and rook b8, defending the pawn on b5. And now bishop b4. So trying to exchange off the dark squared bishops and then plant a rook on b4, you know, and hopefully stop the queenside pawns coming. But now, I mean, Leela's play has been really good up till now, but then it just reaches the stellar. It plays the move g4. Really fantastic move, this one. So it's actually, you know, a very simple idea. If bishop takes h5, then we play h5 and win the bishop. But if h takes g4, what's the difference here? Well, the difference is that the bishop on h5 is completely cut off. As Natasha said, there was a risk, and Leela's shown that. The bishop on h5 completely cut off from the rest of the white forces. Aiming at empty space, g6, f7, e8, and can't get back to e2 or d1 or f3.
And meanwhile, that pawn on e4 is looking ever more dangerous.
Exactly. And you know, the thing is, you know, we said this so often with AlphaZero, but you know, the NN seem to be so able just to say, look, I've got a goal, I need to make a piece passive, give away a pawn or two. You know, Leela's 2 pawns down here, but looking in absolutely fantastic shape. And the key point, you know, the main reason then for this is for blocking the bishop is to go bishop e4, attacking the rook on b1, and now this blockade is going to be very, very difficult to hold because, well, you're not going to be able to do it with 2 rooks, just with 1. So rook c1, and now another beautiful move. The rooks are no longer attacking b5, so black's rook on b8 is free, and now it's attacking d4. That pawn that Leela sacrificed, yeah, now it's going to be quite a serious gain for black if he gets that, because then the rooks can come in. So Stockfish took and decided that it had no other choice but to give up the pawn on g2, defend the d pawn, and then move this pawn to g5. So at least the bishop is getting back into play. But of course, this kingside is horrific for white now. Bishop d5.
So numerically, white still has 1 extra pawn, but just look at how powerful and dangerous black's pawns are, the b and c pawn.
Exactly, and there's this ability to play bishop e4 to chase away a rook from b1 is you know, a very big point in advancing those pawns. In the next few moves, Leela just concentrates its forces. Stockfish doesn't think it can stop those pawns. Concentrates its forces with rook b7. Look at that! Look at those pieces, all based on advancing the pawns. And basically, well, the pawn on c4 is pinned right now, but the king's going back to a7, and then we're just playing c3 and b3. So Stockfish, desperate, tries to distract white. So gives up a pawn, gives a pawn back. Rook c2, attacking the pawn on c4, drags the queen away to b5, which allows the e-pawn to advance. So trying to distract black with the e-pawn. The only problem is that when you give away stuff, then well, that gives the opponent, it can come back to haunt you, and it gives the opponent another way of attacking attacking your position. And here Leela exploits that. f4 and then b3, blows coming on both sides of the board. f3, just attacking the bishop and just tying it down, and also making sure that if black now ever gets round to the white king, then there's a big pawn on f3 helping the attack. So Stockfish tried some tactics. Bishop d3. If c takes d3, then rook takes c8 wins. But Leela just again beautifully calm consolidation here. So the king moved back to a7, out of the pin, and after a6 from Stockfish, trying to entice black to take that pawn, and then just that would open some files. Leela just retreats to b8, leaves the pawn as it is, defends the rook on c8, now threatening to take the bishop on d3. So Stockfish played queen g7 to d7, still with tactics defending, because if c takes d3, then queen b5, rook b5, and rook c8 check. But Leela simply took, and went rook c6. And the tactics are kind of at an end, really. If the bishop moves back to f1, I'm trying to take the bishop on d3. If the bishop takes on h7 or goes back to f1, black just plays c3, and those queenside pawns are just going to queen. So Stockfish tried the bad ending approach. So rook c4, rook takes b3, a little bit of a tactic there. Obviously, if rook takes b3, then we've got d8 queen. But there's no point in doing that. We just play rook d8. Rook takes c4, rook takes rook d7. And, well, this is always going to be winning, but, I thought it might be a little bit tricky. But I thought that Leela played it really, really well. The key point is not to allow the white to exchange off the G pawn for the H pawn with G6. If you stop that, you're doing great, because you've got the right coloured bishop for the rook's pawn. So no horrible gotchas there. If you exchange off the rooks and pick up a couple of pawns, you're just going to be winning. So the bishop went back to f7, and then went to G6, and was played to this lovely square e4. Great square for the bishop. It defends against g5 to g6, stops the d pawn from advancing, and it also means you can chase the king away to just away to the b file, where it's not so well placed. Bishop on d3, attacking the pawn on a6 there. White went d5. Black took the first pawn. So
black's now rounding up these pawns to simplify this ending.
Exactly. But it takes some. This is quite nifty footwork from black. It's actually very impressive. I wouldn't like to do this in a blitz finish, I have to say. So rook f3, king b7, rook g3, rook g7. So this time using the white stopped the bishop coming back to d3 to stop g5 to g6. It's covered this square d3 by the rook. But now the rook is coming over to stop. King c5, king c7, king d4, king d6, rook h3, bishop c8. Nice move, bishop c8, covers the e6 square, and the bishop can come round to d7 or even to f5. King e4, stopping the bishop coming to f5. King f8. I mean, when you play through, you can just, sometimes when you see a game being played, you say, oh, well, this is just winning. But when you explain it, you sort of realise how many moves were played that were stopping, easier ways to realise the advantage. Here, black's playing king f8, going to bring the king to defend the h-pawn, and then free the bishop and rook to target, probably target the d-pawn. Bishop d7, rook e7 check, and there we are, we've done it, king g7. So, next stage will be to target, well, either the d or the g-pawn. Rook f7, just offering the exchange of rooks. I mean, it's right-coloured rook's pawn for the bishop, so no problem at all there, winning that ending. So rook b6, bishop g4, rook f5 check, picking up the g-pawn. Some little checks, the king goes safe, the pawn is safe as well, and I think that Stockfish soon resigned here, because this was completely hopeless. Rook b7, a few more moves were played. Leela always plays around a little bit in these positions, but in the end the h-pawn is just going to queen. So there we are. I hope you enjoyed that game. I think it was a really fantastic game, actually. I think Leela's strategy, well, first of all, playing this move f6, And then this whole idea of sacrificing the pawn, not taking back on d4, just finding excellent squares for its pieces, making white pieces like the knight on c2, rook on b1, queen on g3 passive just by the way you arrange your pieces. That's really good end stuff. And then, well, some great moves. I mean, this move g5, and then, yeah, this lovely idea of playing a5. And then, yeah, this great idea of g4, just blocking out the bishop. Really fantastic play, and just that's what the NNs can do. Just even better than the traditional engines. Play these sort of positions, complicated, unusual pawn structures. Not tactical. I mean, I've shown very few tactical lines in this game, but complicated, strategical. Understanding insight-wise, they really do play these games fantastically. So there we are. Hope you enjoyed that. That's maybe the last game we'll have a look at from Sufi from TCEC season 17. But don't worry, we're going to be doing loads more videos in the coming months. We've got AlphaZero games. We've got season 18 as well.
Sufi 18's on the way.
Exactly. I think they're. What are they? Yeah, I mean they're proceeding through the leagues now, so it's going to start getting exciting again. Yeah, I mean, lots more to come. If you've enjoyed this video and you haven't subscribed yet, please subscribe.
Yeah.
Exactly. And if you haven't seen our book Game Changer, well, do have a look at it. I mean, loads of themes, in games like this, they're covered by, well, by the originator of it, in games played by the originator of it all, AlphaZero. And otherwise, keep well, keep safe, and thanks for watching.
Thank you for watching.